Phoenix Lady here. Welcome to the second video log about my road trips around Montana. I'm doing this one in 3 parts because I got a lot more video this time around. This part covers the trip from Manhattan to Wise River. Part 2 covers the trip from there to Dillon by way of the Scenic Byway. Part 3 covers the trip from Dillon back to Manhattan by way of Twin Bridges, Virginia City, Ennis, and part of the Bear Trap Canyon of the Madison through some very ancient rock indeed. Here we start in Manhattan on Broadway, headed southwest toward I-90. I suppose it's only natural that a town named for Manhattan Island would have a street named Broadway as a major thoroughfare, eh? It runs from the I-90 exit to the school complex. The town itself is set on a broad terrace of quaternary gravel above the Gallatin River, which flows several miles north of town along the base of the Horseshoe Hills. According to Roadside Geology Montana, the Horseshoe Hills north of Manhattan have layers of Proterozoic belt supergroup rocks bent and folded beneath Cambrian and younger Paleozoic rocks. As we head west on I-90 toward Logan, we follow the folded and thrust-faulted Horseshoe Hills, here mostly Cambrian to Permian rocks. Roadside Geology Montana says you can find mostly broken trilobites in the Cambrian shales and brachiopods and corals in the Devonian shales. It probably takes a 4-wheel drive to get anywhere near those areas. The Horseshoe Hills form the north rim of what might be called the Gallatin Valley Hole, which is filled with thousands of feet of sediments ranging from Eocene to recent. The map shows a normal fault along the front of the Bridger Range, but nothing along the cliffs north of Manhattan. There must be a fault under Manhattan, though, because we do get magnitude 2 to 4 earthquakes every so often, sometimes in clusters, several over a day or two. From Logan, as we crest the Horseshoe Hills where they turn south, we can see the hills north of the Tobacco Root Mountains, in which we'd find the Lewis and Clark Caverns if we were going that way today. To the south, the snow-capped peaks are the Spanish Peaks at the north end of the Madison Range.
Way to get there.
Nope.
Because I didn't think I'd gone this route when I got to it.
Last trip, we took a good look at the confluence of the Jefferson, Madison, and Gallatin rivers to become the Missouri River. This time, we're just going to keep driving and cross first the Madison, then the Jefferson River. The higher hills to the north frame the west side of the Missouri. Somewhere within the folds is the Lombard Thrust Fault, considered by some geologists to be the east edge of the Rocky Mountains proper, according to Roadside Geology, Montana. The lower hills are the edge of the Horseshoe Hills on the east side of the Missouri. As we leave the Gallatin Valley, we head up the ramp of Eocene Renova Formation sediments past the hills of Paleozoic and Proterozoic belt supergroup rocks to the south, mostly the La Hood Formation. Near the top of Cardwell Hill, the still snow-capped Tobacco Root Mountains become visible beyond the La Hood Formation, through which the Jefferson River cut its canyon. Keep in mind, we took this trip on July 9th, 2020. To see this much snow at the height of summer is unusual. And down the canyon Cardwell Hill we go to provide you with a different view of the tightly folded Cambrian through Mississippian rocks to the north and the La Hood Formation, Proterozoic rocks, to the south. Westbound on I-90, as we headed down Cardwell Hill, we began to get good views of the Golden Sunlight Mine with the pit on the right, north, and the tailings pile grassed over on the left, south. Past Cardwell, we got a good view of a V-shaped valley between two hills filled all the way to the top with tailings. It gives you an idea just how much ore has been dug out of the pit. Over 3 million ounces troy of gold have been recovered since 1983, making this mine the biggest gold mine in the state. Near Whitehall, we can see the Highland Mountains to the west, particularly flat-topped Table Mountain, and it still has snow on top. As we head west toward Pipestone Pass, ahead we can see the Highland Mountains. To the east, we can also see the Tobacco Root Mountains, but they will soon disappear as we pass into a canyon cut into the granitic rocks of the boulder batholith. Here we can see a lot of spheroidally weathered granitic rocks. My brother calls this next clip the jaws of the mountains because they look like they're about to snap shut on us. You can tell the road cuts are fairly old because while they're flat compared to the rounded boulders visible away from the road, they're rounded on the corners and the older surfaces are more yellow than white. We crossed the Continental Divide, headed north to Butte. They were doing construction on this section of highway, so we were bouncing around a bit. The road cuts were spectacular, but so was the view of Butte and the Berkeley Pit as we came out of Thompson Park. Here you can just make out the M on the hill above Montana Tech as we get closer to Berkeley Pit. You can also see where the continental fault lies along the base of the mountains rising from the valley floor to the northeast. Roadside Geology Montana makes it clear that this fault is still active and capable of around a magnitude 7 earthquake. A good part of the valley floor was marshland in the past. It's threatening to become marshland again as the water table rises now that the pumps clearing water out of the mines have long been shut down. I wouldn't want to live here. The ground will shake like a bowl full of pudding and knock down a good part of Butte. Along the side of the mountain, you can make out I-90 as it drops into the valley from Homestake Pass. As we passed through Butte and onto I-90, we got a better view of the Berkeley Pit, the M, and eventually the snow-capped Anaconda Pintler Mountains to the west, followed by Fleecer Ridge to the southwest. The hill here is made of lowland volcanics, some 50 million years old. As we headed down I-15 toward Divide, we can see Ramsey and the big phosphate plant to the west, along with a major transportation hub. As we approach the Divide exit, it looks almost like we're going to run smack into this hill capped with lava, probably a sill. We now pass into the Big Hole River Canyon. driving past the pump house that takes water from the river and sends it up to Butte over the Continental Divide. Most of the rock towering above the river is granitic rock of the Big Hole Canyon Pluton. Further west, the igneous rock of the Big Hole Canyon Pluton gives way to the Mississippian Madison Group limestone. In the second clip, we get a view of a cave in this limestone, the exact view shown in Roadside Geology of Montana. As we approached Wise River, we first got squeezed between a high cliff and the river, then got a glimpse of a snow-capped peak in the Anaconda Pentla Range, and finally the town, as the canyon widened into a valley where the Wise River flowed into the Big Hole from the south. We'll stop this story here and pick it up again in part 2. Phoenix Lady out.